You're not taking him. Nobody's taking him.
Come on, kid, just give me the gun before you take your foot off. You ain't got the sack to shoot a woodchuck.
Movies. I'll kill you, I swear to God.
Come on, LaChance, give me the gun. You must have at least some of your brother's good sense.
Suck my fat one, you cheap dime store wood.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick, a Coen brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel, Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit Sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Some 15-year-olds may well enjoy this tale about some 12-year-olds, so parents will have to decide how much they are willing to endure for their kids. This sentence, written by Walter Goodman for the New York Times, is one of the first thoughts expressed in his review of this week's film, nestled between ads and listing times for movies like Legal Eagles and Howard the Duck, the latter of which is easily 5 times the size of other films advertised on the page. This negative review is one of only few given to this film, which quickly became a classic and launched the careers of its young stars, and was only the 3rd film in as many years for its director, whose legend is forged in stone despite having a few semi-stinkers in his filmography. Greetings, Starfighters. This is Ruined Childhoods. I'm John, joined as always by my brother Dan, and on this episode we celebrate the 1986 classic Stand By Me, a story that us 40-somethings gladly endure despite Walter Goodman's concerns. Dan, have you ever seen a dead body?
So, I mean, yes. So, do you? I assume you mean outside the context of a funeral, as I have attended a funeral and viewed an open casket. But okay,
yeah.
So here's a story for you. Back several years ago, I want to say this was maybe 2011. Okay. This would have been, I would say, it would have been actually on I think Halloween. And this is one of those stories where sometimes I wonder how much my brain is kind of like combining days just for the convenience of the story. But for right now, so it was Halloween, and I think it was 2011. And you know what? You could confirm this because it snowed. And I was living in Jersey City, right on, in an apartment building that was right along the Hudson River. So, across from Lower Manhattan, beautiful area, the Newport apartments there. Mm-hmm. And out our window, we could see down, we could, see the river bank. And there was, and on this morning, what I remember being Halloween morning, it being a weekend, it snowed.
Okay.
And I noticed, so you looked out because it was a beautiful view. I looked out the window quite often and noticed something like kind of floating in the water.
Ooh.
And, just kind of like, oh, I guess didn't exactly look like the usual. And then noticed, because I noticed that there were cops out there. I didn't just notice something out the window, but I noticed like there were cops out there and they were looking. It's like, oh, they seem to be looking at, oh, what's that floating out there? And they pulled a dead body out of the Hudson River. So
wow,
a sad story. I don't know the story. I don't know any more than that, but just remember kind of following those events on that day. And in a strange twist, I remember that we ended up watching The Shining. Either that day or that night, another Stephen King adaptation.
There you go. Yeah. How about that?
Hey, everything connects. Everything connects.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the I don't know that there's any so that was the story, John. That's how I've seen a dead body outside of the kind of usual context. And yourself?
Well, I'll answer that in just a second, but I will comment that being in Jersey City, you do have to wonder if this is a sleeps with the fishes situation.
Oh yeah, no, sure enough, this was. You definitely think these things.
Concrete shoes.
I feel like they do a better job though of hiding the. I think they've learned the lessons and
amateurs,
and sadly. I think the reality of this was probably either an unfortunate accident or somebody taking their life, and that's
let's pretend that it's a mob hit.
Let's for the purposes of right now, sure. Let's another victim of Murder Incorporated.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. So,
to answer your question though, which was my question originally.
Yes.
I think that, and you and I, we have long been urban dwellers. Interestingly enough, we've never lived in the same city, but we've both lived in different cities.
Correct.
You lived in New York, Seattle. I mean, you can still call Jersey City, its own separate city.
Right,
even though it's adjacent. But and I lived in Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and now Portland. And so that's interesting that we've never lived in the same city, but I've lived in a bunch of cities.
This is true.
Living in a city, unfortunately, you do see a number of unhoused people, more so than you would see in a suburb or a rural community, perhaps. And there have been times where you'll see somebody and you think, I'm pretty sure that person has passed. And it's an unfortunate situation, but still something to note. But certainly
you could pretend those were mob hits.
You could pretend those were mob hits. Sure.
Probably not.
But, but for the sake of just, being able to talk about it. They were mob hits.
So we're going to be talking about the movie Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Based on the novella The Body.
Yeah, have you read it?
I have, in fact, I was rereading it.
I knew you were going to come prepared.
Of course I came prepared. I even have like a section. I may regale us with a reading. Because there's one, there are several moments. I have a lot of comments about, the adaptation, the work that's done here. But there's actually one section that I want to read because I think most people who've seen this movie, it's pretty hard to get out of your head, even after the first time seeing it. And when you've seen it several times, and for me, this is, to at least 5, that would be, I think, a conservative estimate, but between 5 and 10 times that I've seen this movie over the course of, my life, over the past, I guess like 40, almost 40 years since it's been released. And I assume this was not your first time seeing it.
No, but it's been a while, and this was maybe my second time watching it in full. Okay. I've definitely seen bits and pieces over the years, and then I gave it like a solid watch probably in my 20s, and then here we are. I
think this is where our 5.5 year age difference really comes into play, because I was almost 9 when this movie came out. Yeah. So and the characters are all 12. The characters are 12. But it's close enough where we knew about this movie. I remember there was like one kid in like the 4th grade class who had actually seen it because it was rated R.
Yeah.
So had not seen it, but knew about it. But to get back to the point, because I'm about to go into a whole other world of like just discovering this movie, but they do it's this movie about these four boys who are off to go see a dead body. We'll get into the details soon, but they do acknowledge, even as they are going and having, at certain points, they're just saying, oh, this is the best time. But they acknowledge, and this is something it's in the book as well, though I think the character changes that says it, but that like, hey, maybe this shouldn't be a party. We are going to see a dead body, and like they do recognize that, and 12 is kind of that great age where you're like, yeah, you know what, at that age you should be recognizing that. So,
I think that also, taking place in the 50s where people had to grow up a lot faster, especially when you live in situations like these characters or most of these, all of these characters really, where, their home lives weren't as, warm and fuzzy as, you see portrayed more now. And they've got a lot of heavy stuff going on at home. And so these kids, they have to grow up a lot faster. And it's like, this is for them like a huge turning point. And what started off as, one kid just being like, you guys want to see a dead body, to having this like big emotional journey and discovering, parts of their friendship and, opening up with their friends about their lives in a way that they hadn't before. It's, it really turned into something else. And then of course, when it ends, which, I mean, this isn't a movie that really can be spoiled, even though, yes, of course it's been out for 40 years, but also it's like the ending isn't the point of the movie.
Right.
It's, all of the conversations that happen along the way. And the arc, especially for Will Wheaton's character, Gordy.
Right. Yeah. Who is, he's the narrator. And we are kind of seeing the story from his perspective. Should I just go into the synopsis?
Please,
I feel like
give a synopsis.
I feel like I'm already quoting the synopsis. So
yeah. Okay, great.
Here we go. Thinking that some positive press might elevate their social statuses, 4 boys in a small Oregon town set off on foot to find and recover the body of another local boy who has recently died and was rumored to have been hit by a train. The crew consists of dorky Vern, loose cannon Teddy, and bad seed Chris, and our narrator, the gifted storyteller Gordy, who recently lost his older brother and has been getting strong "the wrong kid died" vibes from their father. But the kids aren't the only ones off to find the body of young Ray Brower. Teenage dirtbag Ace Merrill and his crew are also off to recover the body, but for more nefarious reasons. They need to move him to cover up the evidence of a car theft committed by 2 members of their gang. As the kids head towards the body and a confrontation with Ace and his gang, they open up about their personal troubles and find comfort in each other's friendship. Stand By Me, directed by Rob Reiner, with a screenplay by Reynold Gideon and Bruce A. Evans, based on the novella by Stephen King. And it stars Will Wheaton as Gordy, River Phoenix as Chris, Corey Feldman as Teddy, Jerry O'Connell as Vern, Kiefer Sutherland as Ace, Casey Shamasco as you gotta do it. As Billy, we have Marshall Bell as Gordy's father, Francis Lee McCain, as his mother. Francis Lee McCain, we gotta throw out there, because you might not know her name, but if you watched hit movies in the mid 80s, you know her because she is the mother of Lorraine Baines McFly. Right. And also, Mrs. Peltzer. Lynn Peltzer, blender of Gremlins, like
that's true.
Yeah,
respect.
Yeah, like go back to our Gremlins episode. We give mad respect to Frances Lee McCain.
She's
as
awesome,
Mrs. Peltzer. So, John Cusack as Denny. Dick Durock, Swamp Thing, shows up as Bill Travis, the the expected winner of the pie eating contest, infamous pie eating contest, and Richard Dreyfuss as the adult Gordy, who
yes, for better or worse.
Yeah. You know, the 80s Richard Dreyfuss.
He was the right choice.
He was fine. You know what? I mean, you know, I think the other I think like Michael McKean was the other consideration. And I think, I think age wise, I feel like McKean in the mid 80s, maybe was still playing a little younger than,
I mean, thinking about like Clue, what year was Clue?
85.
85, yeah.
Daryl was around that time too. So.
Yeah, so I feel like he would have probably been age appropriate.
He would have been fine, but no, Dreyfuss is the right choice. And
look, of course, we would have preferred Michael McKean in any Richard Dreyfuss role.
Well, of course, yeah, because we wouldn't have to talk this way about him.
Yeah,
then.
we would be talking completely different vibes as humans.
Yeah,
but obviously to Rob Reiner, well, I mean, did Richard Dreyfuss do any other Rob Reiner?
Yes, he's in The American President.
Right. Oh yeah, he's the Weasley like senator or whatever he is that's running against.
Yeah, he's running against Andrew Shepard, Michael Douglas.
Andrew Shepard.
Yeah.
Great president name.
Great president name. Great great.
We should do a ranking of fictional president names.
Hell yes.
Bill Mitchell.
I'm down. All right, we can't do it right this
Okay,
minute,
no.
So
this is not the episode for that.
Let's not start. So, I mean, terrific casting here, and clearly the core four really they really connected, and Rob Reiner, we know, did a lot to help build that camaraderie between them, and they're currently touring with screenings of Stand By Me. Will Wheaton, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell.
Yep. And we're recording this just a few days after the Oscars. Dan, I know that you weren't watching it live, but did you see the In Memoriam?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
It began with a very large tribute to Rob Reiner, led initially by Billy Crystal.
The Rob Reiner was the only part of the In Memoriam that I saw.
Okay. So the In Memoriam as a whole began with this gigantic Rob Reiner tribute. And then there were like little mini tributes toward the end. Barbara Streisand did one for Robert Redford.
Yep, I heard she
sang The Way We Were. And it was, I mean, good to see Barbara. And then Rachel McAdams did a tribute to Diane Keaton, and also a little bit of Catherine O'Hara. She kind of did a little bit of a twofer in there.
Okay.
But ultimately, I felt a little uncomfortable with singling people out in general. As much as Rob Reiner, Diane Keaton, Robert Redford, and Catherine O'Hara were, these amazing performers, there are certainly people that were in the In Memoriam that were even more important to other people. So it didn't sit wonderfully with me, but I understand why they did it. And I think that especially for Rob Reiner, it's because of the tragic nature in which he died that it was as grand as it was. Whereas if maybe this happened in the future of him dying of natural causes, it wouldn't have been as gigantic.
No, definitely. I think the shock, and imagine being part of the Hollywood community and Rob Reiner's kind of place in that Hollywood community. I can definitely see how people would have been shaken by that, and we don't need to go further down those tracks, so to speak.
The only thing I'll say, so of course we do have well, we have our three surviving members of our core four for Stand By Me. It was good to see Daphne Zuniga. Yeah.
And
Standing next to John Cusack, who, clearly is part of Stand By Me, but more significantly,
the Sure Thing.
In The Sure Thing, which was his second film.
Right. Yeah. And of course I was sitting there thinking, I was like, Bill Pullman is at the Oscars. Daphne Zuniga is at the Oscars. Can we impromptu get those two out here to present something together? Like,
you know what? And I just watched a movie with Daphne Zuniga the other day, and not because I knew she was in it, but because it was a movie that had completely passed by my consciousness, and then I saw. Do you want to guess Daphne Zuniga movies? I'll tell you, the main actor is Matthew Modine.
Oh, Gross Anatomy?
Gross Anatomy.
How was Gross Anatomy? Holy cow! I've always wondered about that movie.
It's not great. Matthew Modine
plays exactly the impression that I've gotten. But go ahead.
Matthew Modine plays this very cocky med school student. And this takes place in a world where they're in med school, but there's really only one class that they take, and it takes over their whole lives. It's, I don't know. It might scratch a certain itch for some people. Todd Field is in it.
Okay.
He plays Matthew Modine's roommate, who coincidentally is also a piano player. So Nick Nightingale, perhaps prequel there. Or not prequel, because it came out long before Eyes Wide Shut. But this is maybe around the time that he was inventing Big League Chew.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's not inventing Big League Chew doesn't pay the bills until you invent Big League Chew, I guess.
I mean, Todd Field was an inventor of Big League Chew. Look, we're not going to take that away from him. It's perhaps his greatest accomplishment.
That is,
In the Bedroom was great, but Big League Chew,
it's
something special.
Oh, yeah, because just one of the many wonderful ways children got to replicate the experience of consuming tobacco in the 1980s. It was like, well, I can't have my little, candy cigarettes during the game, but I could put some of this in my lip.
Exactly. Yeah. It'll lose flavor in 9 seconds, but you know what? It looks like chewing tobacco.
How to be like your favorite baseball team. If they're the Amazing Mets, you get some pixie sticks and cut some lines and have a party.
And speaking of chewing tobacco, there's definitely, when I think of chewing tobacco, I think of The Sandlot. And I feel like there's a lot of, connective tissue between The Sandlot and Stand By Me.
Oh, yeah.
They clearly Stand By Me has a much more gravitas to it.
Yes.
And Sandlot has a lot more of the nostalgia factor for a lot of people. But, I want to say that they both are somebody in the present day retelling the story of this significant summer that they had. And it's kind of like a shrimpy kid. I'd say that the kid from The Sandlot has a lot of Will Wheaton characteristics.
Thomas Geary, I think, was in isn't it doesn't Dennis Leary isn't he the one?
I think Dennis Leary. Yeah, I think Dennis Leary's the older version. Is that right? Or no? Does he play the dad?
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, he's the dad or the stepdad. All right, yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Now I gotta look it up.
I have not so generational differences again, because The Sandlot came out in 93. Was not a childhood favorite for me. I was into edgy by then. I wasn't watching The Sandlot.
So, yes, Tom Geary is Scotty Smalls.
All right.
And then David Mickey Evans is the voice version of the older version. And Arliss Howard is the live action version, uncredited.
Okay. Well,
and Dennis Leary is Bill, Scotty's stepfather. So
there we go.
Bingo.
There we go. I remembered something.
But yeah, I feel like Stand By Me kind of created this template that many others would attempt to, replicate in years to come. And successful in their own ways, but definitely not in the same way that Stand By Me has stood the test of time.
So Stand By Me, by the way, so going into it, I knew the soundtrack. I had the soundtrack because the song Stand By Me was re-released. It peaked at number 9 on the Billboard charts.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had the cassette and I loved oldies and all that. And you want to know what's funny? So I have like distinct memories of, so I'd have like all my He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figures out in my room.
Did you recreate Stand By Me with like Skeletor?
Well, so what? Oh,
I guess he would be Ace.
He'd be Ace. Yeah. Beastman
Panthro
would be
is the
Eyeball.
dog from the junkyard.
Or no, actually, Eyeball would be the Cyclops guy. All right. But so what I would do, I can't believe I'm talking about this, but this is a long time ago. So what I would do is I would play with my action figures and I'd have stories, but I'd also have the radio on. So I would like work the songs. I would like make these like jukebox musicals of He-Man. And I have a distinct memory, and I swear, this is coming from somewhere distinct, that it was, and I don't know if it was because of the name or if it was just the figure but I have the figure right here, Man E Faces covering Ben E King, and like Stand By Me would come on the radio and I'd have like Man E Faces like singing like from his different little I have the figure if you're not watching this on like YouTube or Spotify. We could post a picture. Just because there was the recent purge of our parents' old house.
Sure.
And so I have the Manny Faces action figure, and I remember I'd like have him be like, and I'd have him like, angle him back when he's singing those, like getting really emotional in the song, and he like, switch for different verses. He'd like switch faces for the different verses. But
Dan, I like the idea. Dan, I do like the idea though of you, setting up a whole thing where like you're sitting in front of the Commodore 64 and like typing in the word processor and just being like, I didn't realize at the time that summer was going to be the summer that changed my life. And then, like Man of Arms comes out and Tila and,
Who would be who's the Vern of the Orko? Orko would be the Vern.
Orko would be the Vern, yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to go see a dead body?
So okay, we talked a little bit about the cast. We definitely need to go into a little bit more detail. It's hard to really talk about this one because what is there to say about this movie that hasn't been said before? On our last episode of the podcast, we talked about Rain Phoenix, and on this one, we're talking about River Phoenix. And we will continue to sing the praises of that incredible family of actors, just such incredible talents. And, we also grew up watching Space Camp. I mean, listen to the Space Camp episode if you haven't before. So Leaf Phoenix, between the Space Camp and Parenthood, was a fixture in our living room in our VCR.
Definitely.
And I feel like Leaf Phoenix was a bigger presence perhaps than River Phoenix. Explorers and Stand By Me,
Indiana Jones,
sure. Last
when
Crusade,
he did Indiana Jones. Well, that was the crossover for me, just because, like I said, I was still a little young for Stand By Me. I also remember getting into like seeing River, and this would also have been around the time that Last Crusade came out, but seeing movies like on HBO, watching movies like Running on Empty and Little Nikita. Running on Empty, which he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that. So that was my exposure to River Phoenix. That was that was pretty much how I knew who he was.
Yeah, I remember watching Explorers as a kid, and he was definitely less of a significant presence for me. I just think I didn't relate to his character that much.
And his character was, and we talked about this on the Explorers episode, but he was really kind of like playing against type. Not that he really had a type. It was like his first
He hadn't
movie or
defined
second
his
movie. Yeah.
type. Yeah.
But he was less comfortable in that role.
Right.
And that
Those
Ethan
big
Hawke was
glasses
much more central to that movie. Speaking of recent Oscar nominees.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome that these people are still so present in our lives.
And he was up for this movie. Ethan Hawke auditioned for this.
Sure.
This
that
movie.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then thinking about Corey Feldman, who had, such a big 80s, was
Right.
just like absolutely everywhere. And at this time was really making some interesting choices, and to understand what was going on in his personal life while making these movies, especially this movie, more than a lot of his other ones. It's really telling about where this performance is coming from. And I don't know too much about Jerry O'Connell's upbringing, but at least there's nothing that has entered my consciousness in a major public way. But that kind of would serve his character, who is, perhaps the one with the least amount of troubles at home as far as characters go.
Right. Well, yeah. In the book, his character's a little. The character is the same, but there's some differences. So Jerry O'Connell, and you want to talk about things being connected. So Jerry, he was born in New York. His mother was a special ed teacher in New Jersey, and his father was an advertising agency art director, originally from the UK. His maternal grandfather was Charles Witkowski, who was the 34th mayor of, guess what city?
Jersey City?
Bingo.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, Jerry O'Connell's grandfather was mayor of Jersey City, not while I lived there.
Interesting.
And, yeah, he grew up he went to professional, he had I wouldn't say as an average, it sounds like he had a kind of slightly privileged upbringing. And he grew up in Manhattan. He went to the professional children's school, and then he went to NYU.
Yeah.
So he definitely had, but it also sounds like he had a supportive family.
Yeah. Yeah. And
emotionally supportive.
Yeah.
Not so supportive of his career.
I've always liked Jerry O'Connell. I think he seems like a really great dude just in general.
Yeah.
And whenever I've seen him, as an actor performing, I'm always delighted. So, and to see him, in this movie, having experienced him as an adult and then come back to seeing him as a kid is just such a delight. It's just it's little Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah, he's great. He was also by far the youngest of them. He was 11 when they made it. And the other kids were at least Wheaton was 13, Feldman was 14, Phoenix was 15.
And you know what? I feel like Jerry O'Connell being younger, which by the way, they all look like they're the same age.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The fact that he was younger also works for his character because, he's kind of always getting picked on. He's kind of the scrub of the group. So, but he's also just loud and obnoxious.
Well, and he seems
works.
kind of naive. He's what would you eat for the rest of what's the one food you would eat for the rest of your life? Cherry Pez.
Easy, Pez. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not necessarily written, and I think there are a lot of things compared with the book that really, really, really work well for the movie. Vern is not he's not obese. He's not fat, but Vern is definitely the chunkier one.
Sure.
Of the group, which is not how he's written. there are definitely, like, it's not like anyone, it's like, specifically written like he was scrawny, but there are moments of the description where it's like, oh, that's like a skinnier, scrawnier Vern. And I think it adds a lot to the dynamic. Like what's not like they kind of all stand out.
Yeah.
And they also each have their moments in this. And that's something that's it's really nice, especially considering that the movie never loses track of the fact that it is being told by Gordy, and it's
right.
Gordy's telling of the story. Of course, Gordy is written as he's the proxy for Stephen King. There are so many references throughout the book where he talks about, like, someday I would turn those nightmares into $1 million. And
well, okay, this is something that I tend to have a problem with. And a lot of times it's like if a screenwriter is writing a movie about a screenwriter, it's just like, can't you just push yourself a little bit to make it, I don't know, about a garbage man, well, men at work, or like make it about somebody like that has a different kind of, like, I know that it's like, write what you know, but it's like if you're just writing movies about people who make movies, then it's like, well, who is this for? And so when a writer is writing something about a writer, it's just like, all right, well, clearly this is you.
Right. And yeah, so first of all, King does that a lot. And this was something I was thinking about, and I was like, well, that's Misery.
Yeah.
I mean, the dark half. The dark half, The Shining, like, how many of them, like, if they're not just about being, but also, like, so this one is probably the least about being a writer, because him being a writer is a vessel for this story about their childhood. But it also, as I was thinking about it, and it's funny that you mentioned Garbage Man, because in my mind, it would be like, that might be one of the reasons why Stephen King has never won the Pulitzer. And I think about 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner August Wilson, whose play Fences is about a garbage man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
But it's like in some things it's more about being a writer, and then in some, like the dark half is really about, I mean, the dark half is more, is maybe 60% about alcoholism, 40% about being a writer. Well, The Shining is 70-30 in favor of 70% about alcoholism.
Yeah, well, just thinking about Stand By Me, and I'm thinking specifically, and I think that the scene where him being a writer, except for the parts where he's actually writing, comes up the most is when they're, sitting around the fire, and Chris is, telling him to, like, tell them a story, and, he's like, well, I wrote this one thing, and they're talking about, like, oh, you should make the ending be like this and do like this. And it's just like that, those are the moments where it's definitely the most like about a writer. And of course that's the scene that's, the famous pie eating barf scene, which is a really fun departure from the rest of the story that we're witnessing. It's lit so differently. It's, acted so differently, and it really takes you out of the moment of them being uncomfortable and dealing with so many of these like big personal issues, and the fact that they're trying to find this kid's body who died, and it's like without that scene in there, this movie would be too much of a slog. It needs that bit of like something that's coming from a storyteller to completely take you out of what you're experiencing. And so it's
and that's what he needs to
really
do.
Great.
That is because that also comes after they outrun the train.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's actually, so there's a section of that I want to read it from the book.
Sure.
And what I'm going to read, so in the movie, and indulge me here. If you've seen the movie, chances are you remember this pretty well. But what I'm going to read is the description of the moment that Gordy realizes that so they're crossing over it says the Castle River.
Okay.
And
as this takes place in Castle Rock.
Right. Yes. And the novella is set in Maine. The action of the story moves to Oregon, which if it either, I would say it either maybe like slightly even helps it, or it makes absolutely no difference.
Well, we talked about this, I think, on our episode where we talked about In the Bedroom with Eric Goslin, who came on that show, and who is from Maine, because In the Bedroom is a Maine story, so it's appropriate that movie already came up in this episode. But he was talking about Stand By Me as being like, yeah, everybody, in Maine was, so proud about Stand By Me, the story being, taking place there. And it's kind of like a bitterness where it's just like, oh, they probably just saw Portland being mentioned and thought it was Oregon and not Portland, Maine. And as an Oregonian for over 10 years, I can say, this state's pretty proud of Stand By Me, the movie taking place here. And
I will say this: it's unmistakable that in the book it is, and the screenwriters and filmmakers definitely paid close attention to the book. Okay, so any changes that were made were definitely intentional.
I don't know if it was Wikipedia or IMDb. I saw somebody put something in there about how, the character names, they seem to have all of kind of like a French descent. So like if it were in Maine, there's a large like French Canadian representation. And so the last names that you're seeing make a lot more sense to be Maine last names. Like in Oregon, you're not seeing a lot of people that have these like, French derivative names.
LeChance, Duchamp, and it's really just those two, because then the others are Chambers and Tessio.
That's true. Yeah. So it's just those two, but
that's.
I feel like they also would probably know like Andy Dufresne. I feel like Dufresne also is in the same category, different book/movie, or story/movie.
But they're all connected. I mean, he meant, so in the story, he definitely references Cujo and Salem's Lot. I mean, he just mentions the name of the town because they're talking about the weird name. It's actually in the section where Gordy starts to tell the pie contest story, and he's saying that the town is Gretna. It's a made up town called Gretna, Maine. Okay. And they're like, and Vern's like, well, that's a dumb name. And he's like, lots of towns have dumb names, and he runs through them. He's like, Jerusalem's Lot. And then there's another part, where he's describing Chopper, and he's saying that Chopper was like for years and years known as the meanest dog in town until so-and-so's dog Cujo went rabid.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. Hey,
Sandlot, another movie with a famously aggressive dog that turns out to be nothing but a sweetie pie.
And junkyard owner.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Yeah, doesn't he have a junkyard? Yeah.
No. It's not a junkyard. It's just his backyard.
He is
James Earl Jones. Yeah.
So anyways, so the section that I'm going to read is from the moment where Gordy realizes that there's a train coming up until the moment when he yells train.
Okay, let's hear it.
Everything else after that, by the way, is also very the movie is very accurate to it. So, and although I've since written 7 books about people who can do such exotic things as read minds and precognate the future, that was when I had my first and last psychic flash. I'm sure that's what it was. How else to explain it? I squatted and made a fist around the rail on my left. It thrummed in my hand. It was thrumming so hard that it was like gripping a bundle of deadly metallic snakes. You've heard it said his bowels turned to water? I know what that phrase means. Exactly what it means. It may be the most accurate cliche ever coined. I've been scared since, badly scared, but I've never been as scared as I was in that moment, holding that hot live rail. It seemed that for a moment all my works below throat level just went limp and lay there in an internal faint. A thin stream of urine ran listlessly down the inside of one thigh. My mouth opened. I didn't open it. It opened by itself, the jaw dropping like a trap door from which the hinge pins had suddenly been removed. My tongue was plastered suffocatingly against the roof of my mouth. All my muscles were locked. That was the worst. My works went limp, but my muscles were in a kind of dreadful lockbolt, and I couldn't move at all. It was only for a moment, but in the subjective time stream, it lasted forever. All sensory input became intensified, as if some power surge had occurred in the electrical flow of my brain, cranking everything up from 110 volts to 220. I could hear a plane passing in the sky somewhere near and had time to wish I was on it, just sitting in a window seat with a Coke in my hand and gazing idly down at the shining line of a river whose name I did not know. I could see every little splinter and gouge in the tarred crosstie I was squatting on, and out of the corner of my eye I could see the rail itself with my hand still clutched around it, glittering insanely. The vibration from that rail sank so deeply into my hand that when I took it away, it still vibrated, the nerve endings kicking each other over again and again, tingling the way a hand or foot tingles when it has been asleep and is starting to wake up. I could taste my saliva, suddenly all electric and sour and thickened to curds along my gums. And worst, somehow most horrible of all, I couldn't hear the train, yet could not know if it was rushing at me from ahead or behind, or how close it was. It was invisible. It was unannounced, except for that shaking rail. There was only that to advertise its imminent arrival. An image of Ray Brower, dreadfully mangled and thrown into a ditch somewhere like a ripped-open laundry bag, reeled before my eyes. We would join him, or at least Vern and I would, or at least I would. We had invited ourselves to our own funerals. The last thought broke the paralysis, and I shot to my feet. I probably would have looked like a jack-in-the-box to anyone watching, but to myself, I felt like a boy in underwater slow motion, shooting up not through 5 feet of air, but rather up through 500 feet of water, moving slowly, moving with a dreadful languidness as the water parted grudgingly. But at last I did break the surface. I screamed, "Train!"
Wow.
Now, as I was reading that after recently watching the movie again, I was thinking about the editing and how much of all of that is captured in Will Wheaton's expression, but just the cuts back and forth.
Yeah, now I want to watch it again, having heard what you just read. Oh, boy.
It is really, but I read that and I was thinking of that sequence and I was like, damn, I was like, they knew that sequence and they cut it really to match what you get from reading that. And it's just one of the really impressive things about the adaptation work done.
And I got to say also to what you were saying earlier, he referenced another one of his pieces in there. He used the word shining.
Oh, yeah. But,
I know, very different way, in a very different
context.
way.
Yeah,
very, very different way. But also, thin stream of urine.
Well, yeah.
Ooh. Like, the word thin makes it, like, eerie.
It makes it like he had no piss in him, but his bladder found whatever there was to squeeze out. It's like, I gotta
piss something.
Yeah. But
Wow.
But so, and the other thing, like thinking about that scene, thinking about the scene when Teddy wants to dodge the train.
Yeah.
A great, I mean, like, man, just like Corey Feldman, just killing it in this movie. But, like for these kids, danger is an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Like, especially you look at Chris, who he's not worried about getting a beating because he knows he's going to get one no matter. He's not worried about earning a beating. He's not worried about getting in trouble because he knows he's like his dad's going to beat him no matter what. And Teddy, the story about how Teddy's father, and you get this in the movie, but you get it much clearer in the book, is not only a World War II veteran, he is a veteran of D-Day. He stormed the beaches at Normandy.
Right, yes.
In the movie, it comes off at times like it might not be true.
And that's what I kind of was wondering at times. It's kind of like is he full of it? Is it a real thing? Is it a story his dad told him that maybe is not accurate? But in the book, it's actually
in the book
reality.
It is. I think it is talked about in a way like it is never. They were never like, yes, like, whatever lieutenant, so and so Duchamp was part of this battalion and they landed on the beaches. But it's talked about in a way, and it also explains so much. So not just being a veteran, but being a veteran of that type of combat.
Yeah.
And of course, I think so many people do who only, whose visual references for D-Day are the movies, think of the beginning of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, Saving
right.
Private Ryan, yeah.
And you just think, oh, well, if you were there and you were a part of that, like, that's a lot to deal with. So Teddy's father, who puts his ear up to a hot stove. We don't see this happen, but we hear the story and
we see the ear.
In the book, it's described that he wears a hearing aid. But I think it is more effective. And it's not like really hugely noticeable, but when you see it, you're, oh,
right. Yeah.
And I don't know that they established this in the movie, but in the book, he's actually like he's in like a state institution.
Oh, okay.
At the time of the story.
Got it.
At the time that this is happening, because the junkyard owner brings it up in that confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Which is by and large in the, again, in the movie, really, identical to the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, seeing as how we're already at the 50-minute mark, I want to make sure that we move things along a little bit. Although I know that we could talk about this one probably for another hour or two, and we still have plenty left to go.
Yeah, I mean, and just to get the final ick factor, we can't leave out there's so many iconic sequences, but the leeches.
Boom.
Oh, that was terrifying as a kid.
Will Wheaton
still is.
Will Wheaton, the look on his face when he looks inside the underwear and sees what he sees, like, Will Wheaton, you killed a kid. Like, how else would you look if that were to happen to you? My God. But Chris is such an awesome friend. He's so great, and it's just like you would always hope to have a friend that's solid, who's just going to be like never going to question you and is just going to be there, is just going to support you no matter what. And even though he's got problems of his own, you are to him, a break from the insanity, and you'll do anything to protect it, essentially.
Well, and Chris is so determined to be good. Something else in the book, and again, Stephen King, I mean, he's writing this in 1982, so like King is working through some things at that point, but he talks about Chris and the fact that Chris would never take a drink, wouldn't drink a beer, that his father and his brothers, that his oldest brother had like raped a girl and was in prison for that, and that his other older brother Eyeball, who's part of Ace's gang, that they were all drunks, and that he was so determined, and that like he was just determined, and he becomes an attorney when as an adult, and that's the movie is framed with Gordy reading an article about Chris's killed trying to break up a fight.
Yeah. Yep.
And and here's just a last a question for you, and this kind of comes back to the book. And like, by the way, so many of the speeches and moments in this just made me cry so much. Like Gordy at the end, River Phoenix. Yep. Talking to Ace, but after and River Phoenix with the milk money monologue.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just is so like just tore you apart. But so, all right, in the movie, so Ace is threatening Chris.
Yes.
And Gordy pulls the gun that Chris has taken from their father, and Gordy's the one who pulls it. In the book, Chris pulls the gun.
I like that Gordy pulls the gun.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Gordy, who is dealing with, the loss of his older brother.
Yeah.
Wonderfully played by John Cusack.
Another, sorry, just while it's relevant, also in like another thing from the book, they're not close.
Oh, really?
Gordy describes Denny as being like, he was just another, how does he describe him? He says, as far as I could tell, I didn't feel either way about Dennis. We rarely argued, never, in a family situation like that, you're supposed to either hate the older brother or idolize him hopelessly. This is where there's like a 10-year age gap between them.
Yeah.
And he says, as far as I can tell, I didn't feel either way about Dennis. Basically they were just kind of like, they had some interactions. But,
I think it works so much better to have, Denny be this just like great older brother, super supportive, and that makes his loss so much more significant. And the family dynamic between the parents, especially the father, who, I guess the mother too, because she's just kind of a husk of a person.
Yeah.
But for this, child who's still around to be just kind of forgotten and ignored. And like we were saying earlier, it's very much a, the wrong kid died energy, where it's like, there was so much promise in Denny as like a football star, and just everybody loved him, and
he says it.
Yeah,
they said it. So when Gordy has the nightmare, in the nightmare that he has, when in the movie it's his father who says it should have been you.
Yeah.
In the book, it's actually a much gorier nightmare about where he goes into his brother's room and like finds his brother's body in the closet, and his brother looks up and says,
Stephen King.
It's Stephen King, and says it should have been you. Also, in the book, his brother, it's like his brother has been in the military for like a year, and it was at like training camp. Yeah. It's much more distant. It works better this way.
I really do appreciate the way that it's done in the movie, and it's for Gordy to be pulling the gun is kind of a way of being like, y'all are going to notice me, and you can't ignore me. I am here, and I am, showing you who I am, and I am standing up for myself. I'm standing up for my friends, and I'm not going to let bullies push me around, because whether it's Gordy or whether it's Teddy or whether it's Chris, their fathers are pushing them around, whether it's emotionally or physically. And Gordy is just saying like, we're not doing that anymore.
They have nobody else. All these guys have is each other.
Yeah.
And for Gordy, there's also that element of like, who's his Chris? Chris is his brother. Like, that's the brother he has left. And like, you're not going to threaten my brother. I couldn't save my brother, my biological brother, but
and Chris, it's so appropriate for him to be kind of, in such great ties with Gordy because he also is living under the shadow of his brothers in a very different way. Whereas his brothers were bad seeds, and so it was always just assumed that Chris is a bad kid. And he became what they all were saying that he was going to be, because he was like, what's the point in trying to be something else if anyone's just going to assume you're going to be doing that anyway? So in Gordy, he found an escape from that and a real ally, and it works so well. And man, what a great movie. It's Stand By Me.
It really has earned all of the I don't want to say hype. It's not hype, but just all of the goodwill, and its legacy is so well deserved. And I mean, it's a tribute that it keeps being shown. I don't know. I've really not. I mean, like it captures so much so well.
There's okay. So you were mentioning it about the kind of the tribute screenings and things like that. Currently it's the 40th anniversary, so of course there's that. Brownsville, Oregon, which is where Castle Rock was filmed. Brownsville is Castle Rock. So they have Stand By Me Day ever since 2007 on July 24th, I think is when they hold it. And they do screenings and they do Q&As with cast and stuff like that, pie eating contests and after screenings of the movie. Essentially what I recommended they do for Even Cowgirls Get the Blues in Sisters, Oregon. So it got that treatment. And of course, there have been so many movies that have been inspired by Stand By Me, whereas, where Stand By Me kind of like was a template for it. We mentioned a few earlier. But Dan, like, there
Boys
in
the Hood. Boys in the Hood.
Sure.
Like, can you believe that? And like John Singleton was like, definitely inspired by that.
Not a surprise.
Crazy.
But there haven't been any, like, this is a remake of Stand By Me. There haven't been anything like that. And maybe for the best, but Dan, like, what would you do if you were, tasked with doing something like that?
Oh boy. If I had to do something like that, I would probably do probably a series. I think a series where you could flesh out the world of these boys, and this could be an episode you could do, but just like kind of expanding that world. And what do you do to get by when nobody else has your back except for your three friends that nobody else, that everybody thinks is worthless? And
right.
So, I don't know. Like, I feel like Jason Katims could do a,
our Jason Katims a lot on this show.
Well, no, we have not mentioned him. We have not mentioned, he's our go-to for when you need something with the feels.
Don't we this is always coming from you.
I mean, like, I'm not going to say he, discovered Michael B. Jordan, but Friday Night Lights and Parenthood, on The Man Knows Storytelling.
Well, was The Wire before Friday Night Lights?
The Wire was before that, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm not going to say he discovered him, but he definitely was like, I'm putting this guy in my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I mean, look, it doesn't have to be him, and I don't know. You have to let me know when the last time was. It's been a while since he came. I feel like Noah Hawley has come up more recently as a big screen to small screen.
Noah Hawley does come up a lot,
maestro of adaptation. But that's what I would see for this. It's really hard to imagine something else. It's really iconic. I don't think a play would work. It's also like you're dealing with young actors. But it would be interesting, it would be interesting to pick up after Stand By Me and find what happens to them moving on, go into their teen years.
Yeah, I mean,
as we know, they kind of lose connections. So I look, that this is kind of you have to do something with it type of thing. Otherwise, no, nothing that they're not already doing.
Yeah.
What I mean, what's your take?
So, I've thought a lot about this, and clearly doing something earnest would be, I think, a disservice, because there's no way that you could match in any way what this movie, did for so many people and for film itself. So I feel like the only thing that I would find appropriate for it would be a scene for scene, beat by beat remake. But instead of going to find first of all, instead of it being set in the 50s, it's set in the early 90s. And instead of going to find a dead body, they're going to find a porno magazine in the woods. So, here's the deal. It's the cusp of the internet becoming really a thing. There are rumblings. People are starting to say there's this thing, the internet, and you can get pictures of naked people on it, on your dial-up modems. And so then it's these boys who are, maybe they're all going to be moving away. Maybe it's one of those towns where a factory closes and everything shuts down. Everyone's moving away. And so they're going to have they have one chance really to do something together. And they hear a rumor that there's a whole bunch of porno magazines stashed away somewhere in the woods, 15 miles and across a river and, and all that kind of stuff. And so they're going on their little journey to go find the porno.
I mean, it was funny. I was thinking about could you do a retelling set in, I was thinking the 80s because I wasn't thinking of porn. I wasn't thinking of the internet. I was thinking of neither porn nor the internet. But I was thinking, I was really, I think the early 90s is really the cap for when you could do a story like this.
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of taking kind of the core of this story and the friends bonding over a journey to find something that is, infinitely more important to kids.
Right. Well, also it's
I mean, I hope.
But it's also what else could you do that's where you can play it earnest, but it ultimately is funny? It would have to be something like that.
You'd be it's Stand By Me, but instead of a body, it's many bodies.
It's many bodies, yeah. But also I feel you couldn't even do it any later than maybe even the mid 90s, because I don't know, there were no feral children after that point.
Yeah.
Before that point, all of us were just out running around until the streetlights came on, or
I think 93 is your cap for this.
Yeah, until your sibling came riding their bike over to find you to tell you to come home.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's funny. That could have a great soundtrack.
It would have an awesome soundtrack.
Man, that could be a lot of fun. That's a fun idea. That's a really fun idea. It could really work.
Yeah,
do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But honestly, it's you could do it seriously, beat by beat, with Stand By Me, and it's not shying away from the fact that it is a Stand By Me ripoff.
Right.
Yeah. It's embrace that, and it's
they could talk about Stand By Me.
maybe they can acknowledge it, be hey, this reminds me of Stand By Me.
I mean, yeah. Well, it's kind of like in Swingers when they talk about when they're talking about the movies, and then they kind of reenact the moments, the Reservoir Dogs moment, the Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'd be a lot of fun. But all right. So is there a competing group also looking for the porn?
Yeah, there'd have to be some sort of like, group of shitheads.
It's Larry Flint. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like,
bring Woody Harrelson back to play Larry Flint.
Well, no, it wouldn't be like, a bunch of, tweens versus like a corporation. It would have to, I feel like the older brother contingent, because the, Ace's buddies, it's a lot of their older brothers, because Vern's older brother is also part of the crew.
Yeah.
So,
maybe there's
the older brother thing works.
Or maybe I'm trying to think. I'm like, it would be funny if there was if it was like a myth or a tall tale that what someone's mom was in one of the magazines, or maybe it's a whole crate of the same issue that they say no, they buried it out there because it's this kid's mom. and when they got married, his dad got all the copies,
bought every copy of it. That's really funny.
Because also 12-year-old boys
mom.
and your mom jokes. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Oh, it's perfect. It's
come on, your mom. What? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And also it's what, maybe it also is framed by something that's in, 2024 or whatever, of somebody on their phone typing the story in a notes app, doing whatever the present day version of what Richard Dreyfuss did. But anyway,
shooting
if all you out there if any have ideas of how you would revisit Stand By Me, send us an email, ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. You can go to ruinedchildhoodspod.com for lots of fun stuff. Somebody recently purchased an Oscar frickin' Isaac shirt. I was kind of hoping that we, at the Academy Awards, somebody be wearing a tuxedo, but with the t-shirt underneath it for Oscar Isaac, even though he wasn't nominated, but he was still, in Frankenstein.
He was in
Frankenstein.
a nominated movie,
yeah.
And we also have some Jesse Plemons.
We have Jesse Plemons stuff too, yeah.
Also not nominated, and but definitely deserving.
Oh yeah. He should have been nominated. He's fantastic. Begonia was really tremendous. Anyway, send us an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a comment on YouTube or Spotify. We love seeing those. I imagine that Stand By Me's got a lot of people, finding stuff on YouTube about it. So if you're finding us because of that, thank you for listening or watching. We've been doing the show for 316 episodes, so it's been a really long time, and we enjoy doing this. It's so much fun.
We're recording it on March 17th, but oh boy, we're a day off. We could have recorded 316 on 316.
Whoa!
And I might have been wearing my Austin 316 shirt, but no, of course it would have been under my Stephen King Rules sweatshirt.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, Dan, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to be covering in our next episode? We're doing a series of movies that all have complete sentences for titles. Stand By Me is one of them. What is our next?
Our next is 1989's Who's Harry Crumb? Starring John Candy, Annie Potts, Barry Corbett, Tim Thomerson, Shawnee Smith, directed by Paul Flaherty.
Little bit of a tone shift.
A little bit, just a bit of a tone shift in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is a movie that we are going to talk about, and
it most certainly is. And I'm really excited. And Dan, as you are running away from a moving train with a thin stream of urine trickling down your leg, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.